okay, you need to judge everything based on the results, but you also need to decide what is it that we celebrate. And if people celebrated hard work, like, oh yeah, look, life is amazing, but you need to find the thing and do it. It needs to be hard. You need to push yourself. But if I want to piss off the internet, I would go right now and do the tweet that always winds people up. Hey, everybody, you need to work smart, you need to work hard, and you need to work long hours.
Yeah.
It is inevitable that I will get a just ton of people in my comments like, if I'm working hard and smart, why do I need to work long hours? And the reality is, because if you want to build something that really matters, you're going to go up against people that do all three. And that's just the reality. And you will lose every time you go up against somebody that's doing all three of those. Now, when it was hard as hell to get into this country and people were coming from all over the world, escaping persecution, coming to the land of opportunity, we celebrated that shit. Like, we wanted you to build something. We were never Pollyanna. There has always been corruption. I get that, but I'm just saying it was just in the ether, man, that you celebrated people trying to build things and do things, and we wanted to cheer them on. And now, as somebody who's been here for almost 50 years, I see this slow shift away. Elon Musk captured this well. He was like, when did a billionaire become a pejorative?
Yes.
He was like, this used to be something that people celebrated.
Aspirational.
And yeah, like, dude, I had my head down for so long just trying to get rich, not having come from money, that by the time I picked my head up, I realized, oh, people think it's gross now. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I've worked so hard to build something that people want so much that they would rather have the thing that I've created than the money that it cost them. And I reaped the benefits of that in my own life. But bro, I was heads down solving problems that people wanted to solve. And it was grueling. And there was no promise that it was ever going to work out. And so when you start going, that's not worthy of celebration, it's like, be careful, because now all of a sudden what you're incentivizing is, in this case, we have come to celebrate victim mentality. The problem is, check the results. When you get celebrated for being a victim, it doesn't feel good. You're out of alignment with what I will call the evolutionarily placed algorithms running in your brain. And so now you've won and you feel clout because I'm a bigger victim, and you feel righteous and that you have one over on people. And at the same time, you're doing drugs and you're dying deaths of despair, because it is just so out of alignment with a human animal that has come up over untold tens of thousands of years, depending on when you clock us as humans, probably hundreds of thousands of years, that it really was gruelingly difficult. And so that had to be neurologically rewarded. And so when you take that person and you celebrate them for, don't worry, you've been hard done by, the system is stacked against you, you shouldn't even try, like, just let us come in and nanny you and take care of you. And then the nannies feel good about being nannies and they perpetually want to keep people in that situation. Like, it deranges real fast. And I think people need only ask, what is my North Star? The things that you're doing, what outcome are they yielding? Things moving in the wrong direction. They feel good.
Yes.
They feel good. But the data is not good.
Yes.
This generation will be the first generation that lives less time than their parents. We have more homeless, at least in California, than in any time that I know of. More people dying from drug overdoses than any time. I mean, just on and on. Like, there's all these super gnarly metrics.
Man, you've talked about so much there. I have so many thoughts. I think the first thing that's important to say is that those angry, perhaps jealous and envious people and critical people who would leave mean comments on such a thing, they're a minority. And I think it's always important to remember that. Most people are aspirational, and actually the celebration of success, at least in the USA, is more common than the victim mentality or the billionaires bad, millionaires bad mentality. I know that there are people who have that, and there probably always will be some segment of the population with those views, and we'll get into that. But the vast majority of people still want to be successful, and they aspire and they are inspired by and motivated by people who achieve it, right? So you can push all the body positivity and fat acceptance you want, but people still look up to the guy or the gal who's clearly built an impressive physique and who is in good shape, and they still want to watch the Olympics, and they still want to watch sports and top tier athletes. And that's how we are. right? Human beings like heroes. We like aspirational stories. We like people who show us what we are capable of and what our potential is. Yes, is there a segment of the population that gets mad at that? They are. That's their issue. Second thing I'd say with that is a lot of people who are in that latter category, a lot of it is just driven by envy and jealousy. That's the truth of it. And envy and jealousy are sins, and those are not emotions that, they're emotions that we all can occasionally feel, but you should transmute that into inspiration and motivation. Anytime I feel even the slightest pang of envy, like it's almost imperceptible for me. I can't remember the last time I was like truly envious of someone because I'm just motivated or inspired. If I see someone out there has done something or has something or has achieved something that I would like for myself in some way, or even if I don't, I just think it's cool, I'm a celebrator. I'm not a hater. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Like, I love that. Like, I'm in the studio. I'm like, dude, the studio is cool. Like, I'd love to have a studio like this in the future. And so that's awesome. And I think this is happening on a bigger scale than ever now, just because we have the internet and social media. So I think the haters are hating harder than ever before, but the people who want to be inspired and motivated, gosh, it's never been easier to have mentors. Even just by clicking the follow button on someone, it's truly incredible. Like the fact that I'm, yesterday, I obviously had Elon Musk on my podcast last year, but the fact that I can just like message him, like we're chatting yesterday. I'm just like, I'm talking to freaking Elon Musk. Like what? Like this is crazy, right? Like you can just reach people. Wow, like I'm so inspired by this guy. I've been following this person for decades, whatever it is, and you can reach out to them and spread the knowledge and have conversations, and other people can tune in and listen. So in terms of, I do think that the reason why certain narratives that promote and encourage some form of victim mentality, the reason why they can be so powerful, I think it's multiple reasons. Normally there is some kernel of truth to them, right? So it normally takes a kernel of truth and then it just expands it and oftentimes creates an oppressor class, right? So everything you were saying about historical racism and discrimination in the USA, like that's all true. Okay. But also all the stuff we said about the progress that has been made and the opportunities that exist, regardless of your background and so on. All of that is also true. The idea that the game is rigged against you, I mean, it's true in a way. I mean, there are, look at the Fed and the money printing, like inflation, just that alone. Just looking at like the money system and inflation and how that disproportionately affects particularly people who are of lower classes and don't have as much income and don't have as much assets. It's much, much harder on them than people who have a lot of assets and real estate and whatever. And so as inflation takes place, the value of their net worth actually is going up as other people are struggling to buy basic groceries. In that sense, you could say, yeah, actually the system, if by that you mean the monetary system and the way some of these politicians and bureaucrats move, yeah, actually that is rigged against kind of everybody to an extent. So there's some truth to it, but I think the reason why a lot of people latch onto it hard is because it gives a permanent alibi. This is why I've thought for a long time of why victim mentality is so appealing. And yes, I think people like having an enemy, but I also think people like having a permanent alibi and excuse for their absence of success. So if I fail or I don't succeed, or even if I behave badly, I could say, oh, this is because the system is biased against me in some way, shape, or form. It's not my issue and I don't need to take accountability because it's just the system. There's a narrative for this for people of different skin colors. There's a narrative of it for men. There's a narrative for women. There's a narrative for everybody. So anyone, no matter who you are, where you are, like there's a victim narrative that you can use and some people will empathize with and sympathize with because there's that element of truth to it. And I think oftentimes people like to kind of like bond over how they're victims rather than in how they can achieve success and achieve victory. So with it all, I mean, the point I often make with people, because I get in a lot of these conversations, because I get a lot of pushback because I'm very sort of anti-victim mentality, and I like to focus on the positive and optimism and the opportunities and the things that, not just why things are, okay, I'm a big fitness guy. Okay. The obesity rate right now in the US is hovering around 40%, on track to hit 50% within about a decade. You know, as it currently goes, you'll get to a point not so long in the future where literally 90% of the population is overweight or obese and only 10% are, you know, of a healthy weight, in shape. And is it true that there's a lot of garbage that is in the American food system? Absolutely. And I can say that as someone who travels a lot, right? There's ingredients and chemicals and weird things that are put in here that are not put in the food in Europe or in Australia and so on. Is there just an abundance of cheap calories? Yes. Are certain healthy and nutritious foods getting more expensive? Yes, certainly per calorie compared to you know, cheaper, less nutritious foods. Is there a lot of advertising and marketing and fast food joints on every corner and all of that? Yes, that is true. There are many things, you know, are people living more sedentary lifestyles than ever before? Yes, there are many things working against people to stay physically healthy. I completely concede all those points. But with all of this stuff, Tom, it comes down to like, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? I don't have control over how much money the Bank of England or the Fed decides to print. I don't have influence over the advertising policies or which pharmaceuticals or foods are pushed and what's advertised. I don't have control over all of the other people and all the politicians in the system. At best, we have control over ourselves. And as we all know, that is hard in itself, right? Just controlling yourself and doing the things day to day, hour to hour that you know you're meant to be doing, that is a massive battle. So that's why I tend to focus on that, because it's internal versus external locus of control. I can talk to someone who's rants and raves about all of these different systems and historical issues and things happening right now that are making it harder for the average Joe or Jane to live and to thrive and so on. But it comes down to just, okay, so if I give you all that, what are you going to do? Are you going to just accept that and say, okay, for the next 50, 60, 70 years, I'm going to just give up, right? Or I'm just going to complain about it. I'm just going to tweet about it online and be angry and get mad at the people who managed to win? Or are you going to be like, okay, you know what? I'm in like the top 1% of privileged individuals who have ever walked this earth. Look, if you were born in the USA or the UK or another developed Western country, let's say in the past 70, 80 years, just that alone, you are massively privileged. Just having an American, just being an American citizen or being a British citizen. And then if you add on top of that being able-bodied, not having some, you know, serious physical or mental disability, just that alone, you have a ridiculous number of advantages and quote unquote privileges compared to most people. I mean, to be in the top one, I know that obviously things, you know, cost of living differs in different nations, of course. But I think to be in the top global 1% of income earners, you need to earn around $35,000 a year. So if you earn $35,000 or more per year, you are in the global 1% of income earners. 99% of the world's population earns under $35,000 a year. Most people don't know that, but just that alone.
Even if they know it, though, it's not going to change their sense of day to day.
It doesn't. But the point is just having that perspective and being able to recognize, okay, I have issues. We have issues. The nation, the state, there are problems. But I think number one, it's like, okay, it could be way, 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 way worse. And it has been way worse in the past. And it is way worse in most countries around the world. So let's have you can simultaneously have gratitude and also want things to be better. Like these are not, it's not a dichotomy. Like they're not mutually exclusive.